Okay, let's talk about modern women and dogs. Oh, man. So I see this tweet. Do you have the tweet, Malik?
Yep.
Okay, let's pull it up. Okay, it says, I have it here. My mom, age 26 with me, versus me, age 26 with my daughter. I see no difference. Now, we can all laugh and say, oh, ha, 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 her and the dog, hee, hee, hee. And then we think about the reality of how women actually treat the dogs in the modern age. Now, I come from New York City. And by the way, I have a little dog, more of a rat than a dog. Let's just say that. She's like this big. She's 5 pounds if she's eaten a lot of food that day. And yes, the dog has shoes. I'm not going to lie, because once she stepped on glass, she cried, I cried. It wasn't a pretty sight. So I decided to get her little shoes. But what I did notice walking around the streets of Manhattan was that people had taken the dogs to a new level. I saw dogs with full attire, depending upon the occasion at hand. I actually saw a dog at a funeral once in all black. I'm thinking about that dog now. Little Chihuahua. I saw dogs in strollers. You ever see the women? They look like 20s, 30s, wheeling the dog in a little stroller. The dog comes everywhere. They like the dog's getting upset. Oh, you got a blankie for the dog. I've seen dogs get bottle fed. I've seen dogs really just treated like babies. So this sparked my interest, and I found this study on veterinarians.org. It says, as birth rates in U.S. plummet, are pets standing in for children? And I just saw some stats that were interesting to me. It says, among millennial women who don't want children, 70% of those with pets view their dog, cat as their child. Huh. It says, among these pet owners, 69% say having a pet is easier than having a child, and 48% of those with pets also say the costs of caring for a pet are lower than the cost of caring for a child. So I looked over some of the reasons, like why are these women having dogs instead of babies? And here were some of the reasons that were said. I simply have no desire to raise children. Interesting. It's too expensive. Raising a child requires too much time and energy that I'm willing to give. I'm not interested in experiencing pregnancy or labor. That was a big one. A child doesn't fit into the lifestyle I've envisioned for myself. I don't feel maternal urges to have a family of my own. Raising a child would infringe on my freedom. I am prioritizing my career and education. And I read this and I said, what has changed in society? So really interesting stats that I see here. Some of them that I can tell you right away. This whole pregnancy and labor fear is something that happens to women. Happened to me, actually, because modern medicine really wrecks pregnancy and labor. First of all, you don't go to proper physical therapy before you have a baby, so that process of actually having the baby is a lot easier because all the muscles are, you got the stuff you're supposed to do. They do this in other countries, by the way. They don't do it here. It's like frowned upon. Oh, you don't need that. You do. And then the whole hospital experience is so horrible from start to finish in many cases that people are traumatized. They are traumatized. The drugs, the reactions, it's also like clinical, the fluorescence, this, that. They don't put you in the positions that actually, ideally would enable you to release that little baby so that it's less stressful for you. There's a lot that goes on. It can be very traumatizing. And you can hear from women all the time that will vocalize that to you. So that's not surprising. And by the way, you have to wonder, is there a big pharma agenda there with that? Because if you traumatize women in the process of labor, delivery, and it's like, oh my God, you got women now that are like signing up for their C-sections weeks in advance. They're like, oh, I'm going to just schedule it. I'm going to schedule the birth. I remember I was at Fox and somebody said to me, I just want to be drugged. I just want them to bring the little baby out to me and just like, I don't want to know anything about it. Meantime, regular natural delivery actually has a lot of benefits for the baby in terms of flora, in terms of exposing them to a bunch of germs. And it's very good for them, actually. Of course, they don't care about that. Most of the modern medicine people, they don't care. You have to say, though, if they're traumatizing these women, I wonder if there's an agenda there, because you traumatize women, they're less likely to do it again. Oh, I'm not saying it's population control mechanism, but I'm not saying it's not. Just saying, food for thought. But then I got into this whole, like, why don't women want to have children? Like, what's going on that the maternal instinct, it's like somebody shut it off. Or like there's too many women now that just don't feel that desire. You go back, 30 years and you talk to women and they were all like, oh, I couldn't wait to have a baby. It was just a different feeling. And I think a lot of it is the modern feminist movement now. Everyone is so career focused that these women are exhausted at the end of the day. They're like so driven. They're like, well, if I'm doing this, how can I do anything else? And there's no time left in the day. And there's all this pressure. And it's like, well, it's too overwhelming because how could you even fit? It's like you're trying to fit the kid into your life when in reality, the kid should be primary and you should be trying to fit everything else where it fits, if at all. But it's not like that now because they're told they have to pursue this career. So like, how do I juggle it? There's a lot of stress that goes along with that, a lot of anxiety. I also think birth control pills play a role in this. That the chemicals in birth control pills, we talked about how the birth control pills, there are studies that show that they affect the kind of men that you go for. It also affects your desire to have sex. A lot of times your sexual desire goes down. It also affects the way you think about children. I mean, I had this experience myself on and off that pill. So I think birth control pills and the widespread dissemination of them has affected the way a lot of women in their 20s feel about pregnancy. And it's just not on the mind. It's not on top of mind, and it's a source of stress in many respects. And I do think, dare I say, that there's a lot of selfishness in the modern woman. There's a lot of selfishness and this elongated me time. It's like everybody's like in this elongated period of college, slightly post-college, and it's just me, 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 me. It's like, well, I need time for myself. I need my own freedom. What if I want to go out for drinks with the girls? What if I want to take a vacation? And there's this sense of just like me, 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 me all the time. And it wasn't always like that. It was like, you did you, and then you grew up and you gave of yourself to a family. And that child brings so much fulfillment to you that it wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to need to make time for this baby and it's infringing on my freedom. There was reward that came from having that child. Where did all that go? The modern woman has gotten very me, 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 very selfish, and frankly, a little bit lazy sometimes too. A little bit lazy. Like these chores, this, that. Well, why is there no pride in any of these activities anymore? Why? It's like, what do you want to do? And it says here, oh, I'm prioritizing my career. Okay, so career, that's career focus. That's it. It would infringe on my freedom. What are you doing for every year over and over and over? At some point, doesn't it get like tiring? It's like you did that already. Are you ready for something different, something richer, something where you can actually be an adult and have responsibility for something? Well, you know what? They say a dog. Now, why do they say a dog? The top reasons: it's easier to find care for a pet if I need to leave my house for an extended period of time. This is what they say. These are the percentages in the article. I can leave my pet home alone if I need to run errands. The costs for caring for a pet are lower. Caring for a pet is less stressful, less time consuming. I have greater flexibility. So it's like they get this little toy, the pet, and they can have, the kisses and the hugs, put the pet in the stroller and prance the little dog around. Dog is dressed, in a ball gown at a wedding. The dog is dressed all black for a funeral. You see the dogs at the baseball games on the laps, a little baseball cap. I mean, it happens, right? You see it. And there's no baby because they know ultimately if they do decide they need that girls' night out, well, where's the dog? At home. Ruff, 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 ruff. If they need some time with, whatever, the dog is just, you can leave the dog. You can tend to the dog and also not tend to the dog. You can't just leave your baby in the house and be like, oh, girls' night. Wah. No, you got to tend to that baby. But the dog could be woof, woof. So there's an adolescence in the modern way, like it's extended adolescence in the modern woman. To imagine being like, well, I know I need something and I really crave something. Because if you didn't crave anything, if all the maternal instinct was dead, believe me, we're getting there with the way society's going. But if it was all dead, you wouldn't have the little dog in a baby costume wrapped and swaddled in the stroller and you're wheeling him to the grocery store, right? If it was all dead. So it's not all dead. But enough is dead that it's a dog and not a baby. You got to ask yourself. And I've had these conversations with women because, I have the little dog and I took her everywhere, but I never had this delusion like it was a dog and not a baby. Like, oh, yeah, I was doing this, but I didn't want a baby, but I wanted a dog. But I've had these conversations and women will be like, oh, no, because then I get all the benefits. It's like a baby, but it's like I could, I still have my freedom. A dog is not a baby. A dog is not like a baby. I read somewhere that women were saying, oh, it's good prep. If you want to have a baby, have a dog. No, the dog is not a baby. It's not even the same species. Just saying, it's not the same experience to have a dog and have a baby. If you want to watch the full episode, you're going to click right here. And if you want to ask me a question one-on-one, you want to do a one-on-one FaceTime with a group of your friends, whatever you want, you need to download Connect right now. Click right here and let's get talking.